Take a look today at the Spyderco Lil Native. I got this knife about a week ago and I've been carrying it and using it as much as I can. And I kind of wanted to go through what I like about it, what I don't like so much about it, and kind of some information around the history of the knife and the steel. So the Native series began in the 90s, and that went through its iterations. We're on the Native 5 now, and that was one of the original flagships of the US factory, was the Spyderco Native. The Little Native was released in 2018 originally. It was the black G10 with the S30V steel, and these are a Sal Glesser design. And the goal, I think, was to make a knife in a small package, but with a full-size feel, and I would say they definitely did achieve the goal in that design. This is definitely a lot of knife in a small package. You can get a very nice full 4-finger grip on that with that oversized forward finger choil, and I do have large to extra large hands. So this knife has been really excellent to use over the last week. I do love the compression lock, although I will say with the way this the ricasso ends here in that heel there, it will hit your finger when you go to close it there like that. So you kind of just got to get the timing of the flick closed right, so it doesn't just bounce off your finger. And I will say another thing that I wasn't a huge fan of with this knife is that they Loctited the ever-loving shit out of it. I had to use a soldering iron. I held it on the pivot screw for, I think, 8 to 10 seconds. And it just, after that one time, was enough for me to get it loose. But I could tell before I did that I was either going to strip the screw or strip my bit, and that is a game of chicken that I did not want to play. So we have this nice wire clip here. It is reversible. I'm not a huge fan of wire clips, but they work great. I mean, they are functionally excellent clips. Something about them, though, just aren't as visually appealing to me, but this is a nice little utility tool for me, so it's great at what it does. So this knife also did come with a not as even of a grind as I initially thought when I actually got it clamped into the sharpener and started putting the stones to it. There was, of course, that the awful edge termination that we know and love from Spyderco, and I will say that the 15V steel with diamond stones wasn't any worse than any other steel that I've sharpened. I mean, it wasn't any worse than M390 or high hardness Magna Cut. Definitely not worse than S110V. Worse than things like 3V or Crewwear, but it really wasn't too bad to sharpen up at all. So let's talk about 15V steel. So I did use this knife as much as I could in the last week. I didn't, do a formal test. I didn't take it to the garage and just shred up a bunch of cardboard, but I have used it as much as I can. I was breaking down boxes, opening up blister packs, cutting some zip ties, all those things you're not supposed to do, but it held up just fine. I mean, I haven't gotten any microchipping in the edge at all. And it does strop back very nicely. Of course, you cut up a bunch of cardboard with the steel, it's gonna lose some of its bite. And as soon as I feel, with any knife, as soon as I feel some of that bite, I'll do a finger test on it to feel it really biting into my finger there. And if I feel that starting to lose it at all, I'll hit it on the strop, and it usually will come right back if you've got a good strop and some good diamond paste. And 15V is no exception to that. It does bounce right back with a good stropping. So let's talk about some of the ratings with the 15V steel. So traditionally, 15V has been around since the early 90s. 10V before that was about as much vanadium as they could pack into a steel before the development of the particle metallurgy. Once they started getting around 11% vanadium, as I understand, the carbides would start to form too quickly, or they would form too large as the steel was cooling, and you just wouldn't get a good enough grain structure to have a really usable steel. It would be too weak. I'm not a metallurgist. I just read Laren Thomas's papers on it, and so I hope I am not misunderstanding that. But the big brown bear Apparently, his method of heat treating this was better than what we had previously known with 15V, and it did give it some better toughness. Now, that's great. That's fantastic. With a steel that can achieve a high hardness, and apparently his heat treat was able to allow it to achieve that higher hardness and that higher toughness in combination is an excellent thing. But even before that, 15V had around the same toughness as like M390 or 20CV, one of the most popular pocket knife steels we have. And this still was scoring a 10 on the edge retention charts. The only knives that scored higher than this, I think, were like the Maximet and the Rex 121. And those, even without those were already significantly less tough than 15V. Now for corrosion resistance, it is a 4 on the scale, so that's like right around the same range as like M4 or K390. So it is not a true stainless steel. But what I usually will just put a couple dabs of KPL, and I'll just really take a minute to just really work it into the steel. And use a dry part to just kind of really polish it in. And I've noticed I've had zero patina with that. And you know, I'm trying to I'll smear the tape gunk off of it. I'll carry it with me. I am in a pretty humid area, so I haven't really noticed any major discoloration. Anything that you see on there now is just some of my like fingerprints. So 15V. It's because it's close to 15% vanadium, and that's 23 to 25% vanadium carbide. So that high carbide volume is usually what will lead to that low toughness. But again, nobody really talks too much about concerns with toughness with M390 like they have been recently with 15V. And I think it's just because it's one of those sprint run hyped up steels. Everybody wants to talk about their experiences with it like it's something different. But you know, it could have been a different batch or something like that, but that can happen with any other steel. So I'm really glad that I got this knife. It's I've handled a lot of the Native series, and I haven't handled a Lil Native. I'm usually pretty apprehensive about smaller knives, especially ones with bigger price tags. But I am a steel nerd, and it is really the 15V that brought me to this one. And it was also the price difference that didn't just lead me to the full-size Native 515V, but also I kind of was just intending to use this as like a small utility knife. I think 15V is a great steel for that. You know, I really wanted to put it to work. I didn't want to just have it to add to a collection and it just sit there. But if you are and you want to do that and you do that with the sprint runs, then that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think this might take a place of my my Wharncliffe K390 Delica. I mean, that was my dedicated cardboard breakdown knife around the house, or that was really my around the house user. But I tell you, after carrying this thing around, it's nice small size and it just feels big in your hand. It can, you know, it feels like it wants to get the work done. Let's look at the thickness behind the edge on this guy. All right, so that's looking like it's settled at about 19 down behind the edge. So that's not bad at all. That's not too bad at all. I want to say this is right around 16.5 degrees. I sharpened this down to. So I think those in combination, if I have a little bit of that, really nice. Once you get that full grip on there, I mean, there's no, you're choked up. It's choked up on the blade. You're able to really generate a lot of force into those cuts. That small size actually does help with that. You don't have as much torque in back. 15V. Let me know if you've tried any of the new run 15V knives. Let me know what you think about it. Did you get some to use it? Did you get one of the Lil Natives? Which one did you get? I wouldn't have minded one of the PM2s or a full-size native. But financially, I was kind of stuck to this little guy here, which is fine. I'm really glad I got this one. This had the opportunity, not came around the way it did with this one. I probably would have never gotten it, but it was kind of just a spur-of-the-moment thing, and I had the option to get it and the opportunity for a pretty good price, so I took that opportunity. I'm really glad that I did. Anyway, thank you for watching.